John.
No, that's fine. Yeah, just whatever, again, it's what you've done, I'm through.
Welcome, everyone. Please stand for the pledge and remain standing for the prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dear Father, we thank you for everyone gathered here now. Thank you for that you know each of us by name and that have caused us to walk with you. We say that we are dependent on you and our trust is in you completely. We ask that you would come by with your Holy Spirit and inspire our hearts today. Come fill our lives with your love, fill our conversations with your grace and truth. Fill this meeting with your presence. We ask this for your glory and praise. Amen. I'd like to call this meeting to order for June 5th, 2018 at 6:36 p.m. Can I have roll call, please?
I have Alderman Tyler. Here. Pecoraro.
Here.
Berube. Here. Braun.
Here.
Zadzilka.
Here.
Also present, Mayor Arthur G. Pappas and Assistant City Attorney Nick Robinson.
As we move forward here, I'd like for the opening comments of the mayor, if no one has an objection, to hear a report from Amato Fox. If they'd be willing to step forward and give us that report, we can get that going. Step up to the podium.
What is the report? It's just a it's an audit report for the city, everyone.
Yes. Well, he's about to tell us, yes.
Oh.
Yes.
All right, good evening. What I have here and what you have in front of you, I hope, is the financial statements that we audited for the city for December 31st, 2017. This report includes a lot of information. I'm just going to highlight some of it for you. One of the things that we do for you, in addition to performing the audit, which is basically to look at your financial statements and see if they're correctly presented, are the numbers right. In addition to that, we do a couple other reports that we give you. One is a management letter. Tells you if we think there's anything that you're doing wrong. There was nothing of that nature. There were no deficiencies. There's another report that we give you concerning your communication for those charged with governance. In other words, was the audit done easily? Did you give us the information we needed? And you were. That's fine. Our auditor's report itself, which talks about the financial statements, say that the statements are fairly presented. That's as good as it can get. If there was something wrong with them, we would tell you and let you know, but they're fairly presented. There are two other reports that we give you concerning internal control, whether or not you have the controls in place to keep things running smoothly. One is just for the general overall city, and that one was in compliance. And we do a separate one for federal programs. The money that you get from the federal government, and you have to determine whether you spent the money the way you were supposed to, and the answer is you did. So with that out of the way, you had 5 chances to get a good report, and you got 5 good reports. So, what do the numbers actually say? If you have it in front of you, I'll tell you what page I'm on. The first page I'm on is page 59. And what we have there is, we have your income statement for your water fund and your sewer fund. And the third line down from the bottom, we'll take the sewer fund first. Your sewer fund lost $492,000. You had planned in your budget to lose $610,000. So you were planning to eke down at the fund balance to the tune of about $600,000, and you did it about $500,000. So your plan was in place, and it worked, and you actually made out a little better than you thought you would. Similarly, in the water fund, you had a loss of $88,000, and you had planned on a loss of $331,000. So again, you're eating down at the fund balance like you had planned to do, not quite as fast as you thought you would, but that's okay. For the next year, you set aside money for those funds as well. I think it's $700,000 for the sewer and $220,000 for the water. Now, you're eating into the fund balance, that's fine, but obviously you have to keep an eye on that because you're gonna get to the point where you can't keep doing that. So, as long as you keep an eye on that, you'll be all right. You have reserves set up in those funds, and they're very conservative, so you can actually use those as you go forward, as long as you keep an eye on it. That's the sewer and the water, and obviously we're going to talk about the general fund, which is on page 26. Actually starting on page 25, you had budgeted revenues to be $34,940,000. They came in at $33,682,000. You were $1 million too short, and that had to do with things such as sales tax and whatnot hitting your projections. That's not terribly a bad thing because you came up a winner on the other side with the expenditures where you budgeted $36,600,000 and you came in at $35,343,000, so it's kind of a wash. You had budgeted to use up $1,700,000 of that fund balance. You had $8,000,004 at the beginning of the year, and you budgeted to use up $1,700,000 to leave you with $6,700,000. This is all on page 26. And you actually came in at a loss of $1,000,004. So again, you're about $300,000 better off than you had planned to be. But again, you're eating away at the fund balance, and you have to keep an eye on this as well because that's going to be going down. And in future years, 2019 and forward, you'll have to make sure that there's still something there that you can use. But we'll see how that goes. So basically, your fund balances for your sewer, water, and general fund are in good shape, and you have enough there for a few years. Most of the other information that's in here has to do with your long-term debt and some of the other revenues and expenditures that are in here. Your long-term debt is on page 46 and 47. And as you can see, your serial bonds there at the top are $12,971,000. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 categories of long-term debt, and 4 of them are solid numbers that you actually must budget for in the next few years. Serial bonds, you have a New York State Retirement Local Incentive, and you have a New York State Retirement System note that you have to pay off over the next, I don't know how many years, 20 to 30 years. But you also have some other numbers in there for compensated absences, workers' compensation, things of that nature, which are actuarial numbers that will just flow through your operations as you go forward. So even though it shows a total debt of $44 million, only about 15 of that is something that you actually have to budget for in your long-term capital note budgeting. Other than that, the rest just flows through your operations. Other than that, there's not really a whole lot to be said here. Again, keep an eye on your fund balance, and going forward, you should be okay.
Excellent. Any questions from the council? All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
At this point, we will move on to anybody who is wishing to comment on the agenda. Tonight's agenda only. Please step forward to the microphone, state your name and address for the record.
Before anyone steps up, not that you can't, I will have on display at the clerk's office a copy of the City of North Tonawanda, New York Basic Financial Statement and Single Audit with Independent Auditor's Report. So if anyone would like to come up and look at it throughout the day, throughout normal business hours, you're welcome to come look at it. You cannot take it.
Why is that? Because it's not approved, basically?
Yeah, it's just, you won't need a copy.
Thank you, Dan. Anybody wishing to step forward and speak on tonight's agenda only, please step forward. State your name and address for the record.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sonia Duza, and I reside at 123 Miller Street in North Tonawanda. On the agenda, several things. First of all, let me make the point that the speaker who just spoke, it would have been very nice and a courtesy when he was reading, as he said, page so-and-so, and you were then turning to page so-and-so. It would have been nice if the audience could have been reading the same thing so we could digest this information. To me, this is very basic. Also, regarding the wastewater superintendent's increase of about $10,000, I know he's been doing, I believe, a yeoman's job with respect to our water treatment plant. I appreciate that. However, NT is like Lockport in Niagara Falls. We are distressed in terms of our finance and in the situation we are in our municipality financial situation. And I think even more so, the city attorney's request for a huge increase, I forget the percentage, 25%, 30% increase. To me, that is just not taking into consideration the financial straits that we are experiencing. We're one of the highest taxed communities in our nation. We need to really tighten our belts, yet we need to progress, but we've got to do a better job in getting a bigger bang for a buck. On the item on community development, I've been a big proponent of public participation, especially with planning, as you well know, I think most of you. And I would like to have a clarification on the Section 3 of the Housing and Urban Development Act of 1968 as amended. Section 3 requires that economic opportunities generated by a certain U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development financial assistance for housing and community development programs be directed to low and very low income persons, particularly those who are recipients of the government assistance for housing and business concerns which provide economic opportunities to low and very low income persons. Well, I've been aware that community development has had that regulation there. What is different today?
Mike, did you want to speak on that?
Yeah, there's nothing different today, it's just a requirement that periodically the city adopts a Section 3 participation plan that is current with current HUD regulations. So in order to move forward and apply for any future grants, we need to have an updated adoption of the Section 3 participation.
What would be different in the adoption?
HUD has updated some of their definitions of what Section 3 plan is. We have to make sure we're compliant with that.
I'm confused on that. I know this is a good regulation that the feds have, and I would like to see more, when we have a public hearing, especially with planning, in zoning, but planning, that we really advertise it in our printed media. There are people who we do not have the local paper anymore. A lot of people do not subscribe to both the Niagara Gazette and the Buffalo News. And so we're really limited in having the access to the different information.
It would be online as well.
I'm sorry?
It'll be online as well.
Well, online, sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. But I would strongly urge, request that we do more asking for people, letting them know, we truly want to hear what you think. I've noticed over the decades that when you take a petition, boy, do people have a lot of information. Do they really care? They care a lot. And we just need to have them feel we want to hear from them. We want to see them engaged. Thank you so much. So if you will consider those comments, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Sonia.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak on tonight's agenda and the agenda only, please step forward. State your name and address for the record. Seeing that there's none, we'll move on and roll with the minutes.
approval of the minutes of the regular session, May 15th, 2018.
So moved.
Moved by Alderman Zazoka and
Second.
Alderman Pecoraro.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried.
Proof of publication published 5/16/2018. Legal notice, public hearing to discuss the city's economic development programs and potential submission of an applicant for community development block grant funding community development. Proof of publication published 5/25/18. Annual drinking water quality report for 2017 for the city of North Tonawanda. Superintendent wastewater water.
Make the motion we receive and file.
Moved by Alderman Pecoraro, second by Alderman Berube.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried.
Communications from city officials, the mayor regarding salary increase for the superintendent of wastewater water.
I'd like to make a motion that we table this item for further review and for further information.
I'll second that.
Moved by Alderman Zazoka, second by Alderman Pecoraro.
We have a motion and a second to table this item. Can I have roll call, please?
Aldermans Tyler,
Aye.
Pecoraro.
Aye.
Berube.
Aye.
Braun.
Aye.
Zazoka.
Aye. Motion is carried to table.
Superintendent of wastewater water regarding award of bid for Southwest Primary Digester cleaning at the wastewater treatment plant.
I'll make the motion that we award the bid.
I'll second.
Moved by Alderman Zazoka, second by Alderwoman Braun.
We have a motion and a second. Can I have roll call on this, please?
Aldermans Tyler,
Aye.
Pecoraro.
Aye.
Berube.
Aye.
Braun.
Aye.
Zazoka.
Aye. Motion is carried.
Superintendent of wastewater water regarding renewal of agreement with Interscope.
Bill, can you, just elaborate on that for us, please?
Basically, he's like a broker, he goes out and insures, he helps us put out a bid every year, like we're gonna put it out in July, it starts I think August 1st, or August 15th. He goes out and gets the best gas prices for us on the market, he saves considerable money, we've used this process for almost 20 years, and found it's pretty effective. And it's saving us in the range of 25 to 30 to 32,000 a year between water and wastewater. So it's not a huge savings, but it's enough to warrant spending approximately a little less than 4,000 in services.
Oh. Okay.
He also goes back and gets money from our bills when they incorrectly bill us. You'd be surprised how many times that's happened. It happens probably 4 to 5 times a year between the two facilities that we're billed. And they'll go back and he goes back and calculates it and make sure he gets that back for us.
Maybe we gotta find a new provider then if they're billing us right.
No, that's actually from the gas company itself when they send out the bill.
Okay, thank you, Bill, for clarifying.
Thank you, Bill.
I'll make a motion.
Moved by Alderman Tyler,
I'll second it.
second by Alderman Zazoka.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried.
From the city account regarding payment of the abstract of claims dated June 5th, 2018.
Make the motion we pay the abstract.
Moved by Alderman Pecoraro,
I'll second.
seconded by Alderwoman Braun.
We have a motion and a second. Can I have roll call on this, please?
Aldermans Tyler,
Aye.
Pecoraro.
Aye.
Berube.
Aye.
Braun.
Aye.
Zazoka.
Aye. Motion is carried.
From the city account regarding approval of the completion of the city audit for year ending December 31st, 2017.
I'll make a motion. We approve the audit.
Moved by Alderman Zazoka,
I'll second.
seconded by Alderman Berube.
We have a motion and a second. Can I have a roll call on this item?
Aldermans Tyler,
Aye.
Pecoraro.
Aye.
Berube.
Aye.
Braun.
Aye.
Zazoka.
Aye. Motion carries.
From the city account regarding approval of the serial bond resolution for the 2018 capital improvement plan.
On the question, this, it's a big item, and I know Wendell came in, and discussed some of their findings, and I know Amanda's done a job really well, to sort of vetting out the accounting of it. But I do feel that there's still that extra level that, you know, for Amanda to come in next time, or even this time, and just say, you know, break it down, like what is our process this year, maybe it changed a little bit, how much money, why are we spending it towards here, why is it going here? Just to give more of a presentation about it and not, you,
On that note,
yeah, you
Yep.
could, that would be great.
The bond resolution that is presented here for approval today, it is based on the capital improvement plan that, the superintendent, the assistant city engineer, Alderman Pecoraro, myself worked on over the last year. What this is reflects the narrowed down version of the maximum amount of money we anticipate spending. To move forward with the grant application, we have to have a bond resolution in place, basically saying, we are already,
Like you have the money,
Right,
you're not
exactly.
lying, and, because we don't know if we're getting those grants just yet, right?
correct. So the grant application process begins, I think it's the first week of July now. We narrowed down the first phase of the capital improvement plan. So what you're seeing here is what we, at a maximum, anticipate spending. So we really can't give you a final completed capital improvement plan for approval until we know the grant funds we will receive. Because it's really gonna impact, because of the caliber of the money that is involved in this, we really can't give you a final plan until we know exactly
Do
what
you-
grant monies are there.
Do you, in any ballpark, know the max amount if we had our four-leaf clovers and so on?
For the grant funds?
Yeah.
I don't have maximum,
Okay.
but
I
some of the
know it's a
grants
really,
are like 25, some are
right,
50%,
there's a lot of them, and
and
you never know when
mhm.
surprises happen, so.
But there is a lot of funding available right now, so, I mean, that could play in our favor. It just depends based on like who applies, and they'll do a needs assessment and grant us. I mean, we could get nothing, we could get everything we're asking for. So all that will play a role in the final capital improvement plan. But before we apply for any of those grants, we do have to have this bond resolution in place. The process with the bond resolution is that you do the resolution. I will not secure funding for anything in this resolution. It's, I do that through like our capital markets advisors. This is all legal, it's just saying, we approve this, it's a formality, and then the whole closing on the loans and all that, that's an entirely separate process. As far as this bond resolution goes, there are two items in here where tomorrow I will call capital markets advisors and I will begin the process of closing a loan. Those two items are the $253,000 for the Main Street Green Infrastructure Improvement Program. That's part of the Smart Growth Fund money from Governor Cuomo. So those projects are in place. I think the bids were approved in February by the Common Council. So that grant money was already awarded and we're moving forward with those.
It
So
was.
tomorrow, we will move forward with the 375 and the 253,000. That's the city share of the money on those two projects. So, those numbers were from, Mike Zimmerman. So we worked together with that and he basically let me know, we have this award. These are all of our funding sources. This is what the city has to match to move forward with those. Tomorrow, those are going to happen. The other portion of the money, we won't even revisit this until we've gone through the whole entire grant application process. And at that time, they'll present a final capital improvement plan, and I think at next week's meeting, we added to that, capital improvement plan, the radio read meters. There's a huge payback model on those. So the average life of a water meter is, I think, like 20 years, and then after that, we start to have significant revenue loss because they're not reading meters accurately, and you know the meters we have now can be tampered with, and the reporting is not the best on those. So last year as a budget committee, we talked about that, and then the project will pay for itself over. I think we estimate like 11, 12 years. So everything you spend on that will recoup in like revenue loss. So we put that in there for the purpose of applying for a grant. We want to help offset that. If we don't get the grant for it, we're gonna try. The good part of it is it applies to water and wastewater. So we're gonna apply for it with our water program and also the wastewater program.
So Amanda, one question is, just again, the process. So we accepted the grants from the one, Smart Growth.
Yeah.
we're approving a bond for it now, basically. And then, but we're also approving a bond for a grant we didn't get. So it's, to me, it sounds like we're in the middle of, you know, are we supposed to approve the bond first and then move forward with accepting the smart funds and any possible grants that are unforeseen, or, you know what I mean?
So the bond resolution is entirely different than, it's an approved project and we're going after the funding for it. I don't secure funding for any projects that are not approved by the Common Council. So, for example, last year, we were closed on our capital plan for this year. That's a capital improvement plan that is approved by the Common Council as part of the 2019 budget, and we do the resolution and secure that funding immediately. The only reason these are grouped together like this is because we had all 4 projects come up at the same time, so it's easier to just combine them and do
Yeah, it had to
one
be done.
resolution. As far as what we move forward, what I move forward on, as far as working and closing the loans on them, I do that based on the capital improvement plan or the grant being approved by the Common Council. So right now, I have those 2 grants approved by the Common Council back in February, and then the other ones aren't approved. So we won't move forward with the funding until those are approved in final projects.
Right, okay.
Okay.
So this is the appropriate
So
process.
yeah, we have to do this to move forward.
Correct.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Amanda.
Saying that, I'll make the motion that we approve this.
I'm gonna second it.
Moved by Alderman Zazoka, second by Alderman Pecoraro.
And we have a motion and a second, roll call, please.
Alderman Tyler,
Aye.
Pecoraro,
Aye.
Ruby,
Aye.
Braun,
Aye.
Zazoka.
Aye, motion carries.
I have from the police chief regarding reappointment of Thomas E. Krantz as a Commissioner of D for the city of North Tonawanda.
I'll make the motion.
I'll
Moved by
second.
Alderman Tyler, second by Alderwoman Braun.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I have from the fire chief regarding reappointment of Joseph D. Sikora, Douglas D. Orlowski, and Glenn A. Rickauer as Commissioner of Deeds for the city of North Tonawanda.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Moved by Alderman Berube and seconded by Alderman Pecoraro.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? This motion is carried.
I have from Youth Recreation and Parks approval of the sign specs for the new band shell at Veterans Park.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Moved by Alderman Berube, seconded by Alderman Zazoka.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor on this one?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is carried.
I have Youth Recreation and Parks regarding award of dock space at Gateway Harbor to Niagara River Cruises and Buffalo Cycle Boats LLC.
I'd like to make the motion that we approve this with the caveat that it's only for the Niagara River cruises because that's 2018 it's needed for, and table the pedal boats and put out a different RFP for that next year.
I'll second that.
Patty, if you could help us through that piece, that would be wonderful to.
That's what it does say,
Yeah.
it's for 2019.
No, it's for 2019, but does that lock us into approving that for 2019? Or can we look at a 2019 approval next year? Is that acceptable? Okay. So basically, we're saying Niagara River Cruises is
Yeah.
good, and we'll revisit the pedal boats next year.
So you want RFP next year for that dock space, not lock in Buffalo Cycle boats
Right.
into it.
Right, exactly.
So we have a motion and a second. Can I have a roll call on this, please?
Aldermans Tyler,
Aye.
Pecoraro,
Aye.
Berube,
Aye.
Braun,
Aye.
Zazoka.
Aye, motion is carried.
I have from Youth Recreation and Parks, award of proposal for the feasibility study on Memorial Pool to Brand Setter Carroll Inc.
You know, I want to thank Patty for allowing me to be on that committee to look at the 3 firms that were applying for their modification or revision of Memorial Pool. And I think we selected the right firm to move forward with their recommendation, so I'm going to make the motion.
I'll second that, and I was saying earlier, I think my great-grandpa was a part of the creation of it at one point.
And it may not be there anymore.
And it may not be there anymore, right? That was a long time ago, I never met him, but my dad too the other day said it was the go-to place of North Tonawanda years ago. He said that's where everyone flocked to, is like the center park of NT, so hopefully we can get some good stuff out of this, right?
I think overall we will, because it's not the go-to spot today.
No, I agree.
And I think anybody in this room will probably tell you that.
Trying to be light with it,
That's-
Bob.
That it's not the go-to spot. I took swimming lessons there at Memorial Pool when I was a young.
I swam so poorly, they thought I was drowning the one time and jumped in after me, and like I had no idea, so.
So we have a motion and a second. We have a motion and a second on the floor, please. Can I have roll call on this?
Alderman Tyler.
Aye.
Pecoraro.
Aye.
Berube.
Aye.
Braun.
Aye.
Zazoka.
Aye. Motion carries.
Under traffic safety, I have regarding various traffic safety recommendations from their May meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion that we receive this and accept it.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Zazoka, second by Alderman Pecoraro.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried.
I have monthly reports, clerk treasurer, police department.
I'll make a motion to receive and file.
Moved by Alderman Berube. We have a second.
A second.
Second by Alderman Braun.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried.
I have community development regarding adoption of section 3 participation plan.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Pecoraro, second by Alderman Zazoka.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried.
I have from community development regarding authorization to submit an application for a grant from the Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Foundation Play Everywhere Challenge.
I'll make that motion.
Moved by Alderman Braun,
I'll second that.
seconded by Alderman Pecoraro.
We have a motion and a second. Can I have roll call on this item?
Alderman Tyler,
Aye.
Pecoraro.
Aye.
Berube.
Aye.
Braun.
Aye.
Zazoka.
Aye. Motion carries.
Communications from others. Meadow Elementary School regarding permission to use the library lawn space for class activities to the end of the 2018 school year.
I make a motion that we accept this.
I'll second.
Moved by Alderman Zazoka, second by Alderman Berube.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried.
I have from Charlene O'Neill, permission to be appointed as a Commissioner of Deeds for the City of North Tonawanda.
I'll make the motion.
Moved by Alderman Tyler,
A second.
seconded by Alderwoman Braun.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried.
I have from Project Pride, regarding permission to place one seasonal temporary laborer, we had to correct the title, under the supervision of the Parks and Recreation Department to maintain Webster, Manhattan, and Oliver Streets from June through September 2018.
I'll make that motion, and I applaud Project Pride for bringing this to the Common Council.
Moved by Alderwoman Braun,
I'll second that.
second by Alderman Pecoraro.
We have a motion and a second. Can I have roll call on this item, please?
Alderman Tyler,
Aye.
Pecoraro.
Aye.
Berube.
Aye.
Braun.
Aye.
Zazoka.
Aye. Motion carries.
From Mental Health Peer Connection regarding permission to use Gratwick Park on September 15th, 2018 for their kite flying event.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Moved by Alderman Zazoka, second by Alderman Berube.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried.
I have from the Carnegie Arts Center regarding permission to close Webster Street to Main Street Tuesday, July 31st, 2018 for the Music and Arts Festival.
I'll make the motion.
Moved by Alderman Tyler,
I'll second.
second by Alderwoman Braun.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried.
I have from Western New York Prism, permission to use the Botanical Gardens boat ramp July 5th through July 7th and August 16th through August 19th and the Service Drive Boat Ramp from June 21st through June 23rd, July 28th through July 29th, and August 23rd through August 24th for their watercraft inspection steward program.
Since this isn't my award, I'd like to make the motion on that.
I'll second it.
Moved by Alderman Zazoka, second by Alderman Pecoraro.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried.
At this time, I have a late communication I will read first before I ask for a motion to bring it to the floor. This comes from City Attorney Luke Brown. Dear Honorable Body, attached is a proposed lease between the City of North Tonawanda and Entercom Buffalo LLC for the event commonly known as Brews and Wines on the Water, to be held at Gratwick Park. Should your honorable body concur, please pass a resolution to adopt this new lease and approve for the mayor's signature. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me. Do I have a motion to bring this to the floor?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Moved by Alderman Berube, seconded by Alderman Pecoraro.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor to bring it on the floor. Well, I'll do roll call to bring it to the floor.
Alderman Tyler.
Aye.
Pecoraro.
Aye.
Berube.
Aye.
Braun.
Aye.
Zazoka.
Motion carries.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve this council accepting this lease tonight?
I'll make that motion.
Moved by Alderman Berube,
I'll second it.
seconded by Alderman Pecoraro.
We have a motion and a second to accept this lease. Since it's a lease, I'd like to do a roll call item on this, please.
Alderman Tyler.
Aye.
Pecoraro.
Aye.
Berube.
Aye.
Braun.
Aye.
Zazoka.
Aye, motion carried. All right, so at this point, if anybody's wishing to speak on any city business for the good of the city, please step forward, state your name and address for the microphone. Come right up to the microphone and state your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Bernadette Howarth. My neighbors and I have filed a lawsuit.
Bernadette, can you please tell me your address?
1106 Sweeney Street.
Thank you.
My neighbors and I have filed a lawsuit against the city in opposition of the 1100 Sweeney Street project. This lawsuit was filed because neither the city council nor the planning board followed their own laws and ordinances. Our questions and concerns fell on deaf ears. The planning board pushed this project through even though some of the required studies were not done. The seeker report was full of false truths and there was fierce objection by the majority of the neighborhood. Having said that, I would like to hear from each of the council members where they stand on the formation of an independent ethics committee for North Tonawanda. Mr. Mayor, can we start with you?
Right now, I have no comment on it.
I'm not gonna get no comment all through this.
Well, if it's in litigation, I don't know what we can comment on. Right, Nick?
I would recommend not saying anything.
Right.
This is, as you, I'm sure are well aware, this is presently in litigation as we speak.
I'm not saying about the lawsuit, I want an ethics committee for North Tonawanda, that's totally different from the lawsuit.
Part of what you
Setting
said,
that aside.
part of what you said about the council didn't follow through. As far as I'm understanding this didn't go through the council. We had a public hearing to hear your concerns. So we did follow that. But as far as, this was before the planning board, was it not?
Yes, it was.
Okay, it was not before the council.
No.
Okay, so you're asking me to weigh in on something that wasn't brought to the
No,
council.
I'm not asking anything about the Sweeney Street thing. I'm asking about an ethics committee. What are your thoughts on forming an ethics committee for North Tonawanda?
Well, I think we know my thoughts on an ethics committee, so I'm just as intrigued to hear what everyone else's are.
I know,
I think we've talked about this before, and, you know, the county has, you know, Alderman Tyler, brings up something kind of ironic in the fact that he doesn't want to repeat or duplicate services. However,
What?
he would like, let me finish, I have the floor. And he would like to share services. So if we already have, and we've discussed this, an ethics committee at the county level, then why don't we go through the ethics committee that exists at the county and not have one at the city?
But if that's your logic of shared services is more to save money. If we're talking about a free committee,
No, it's an
have you-
unbiased committee.
But shared services is your logic initially leading into why we should just share the service of ethics.
And we brought it up and you had heard that we should use the county as a possibility.
Well, I
and
think
you heard
shared
that.
services
So
is
don't
an
act like you're
invalid
inquisitive.
argument for.
There's no inquisitiveness on your part because you know where we stand.
I have a question. The Niagara County Ethics Committee?
Yeah.
How many people are on it, and where is it?
Well, I know
could not
Lockport
find-
currently uses that. I don't know if Nick, if you can speak on any of that. But I know that Lockport uses them as their ethics committee for the
Uses
county. The
The
county.
county?
Yeah.
How many people are on the county ethics?
Does anyone know
committee? Does
anything
this-
about it? Cause I don't.
Thank you, I don't either. I could find no information.
I know about other municipalities' ethics committees.
Let's worry about this one.
Well, then let's not worry about the counties and let's worry about ours.
Well, if the county's doing it, let's use that resource.
Where is it? I could find nothing.
It's in Lockport.
Okay, that's a start.
You gotta go to Lockport and ask around.
That's a start. Are they hidden or something?
No,
or
you would call, you
because-
would check through Lockport, through the county building, and they can direct you to the ethics committee.
Oh,
There is an
okay,
ethics
so-
committee.
Oh, it does exist.
Yes,
It does.
Okay.
If we wanted to send something to the ethics committee, we would send it directly to them through Lockport. So there are times in the past, I've only been the assistant city attorney for 2 years, I'm told there's times in the past that we've sent stuff out to them.
Who sends it?
I can tell you that in my office, previous administrations have sent different ethics opinions out, or asked for opinions from them.
Well, what if someone has an issue with the attorney's office? Then the attorney would still be sending it.
What difference does it make if he sends it if there is a rule on it?
We don't make decisions on any ethics.
No, I know, but
Opinions.
like, if there's, it's sort of supposed to be a non-conflicting body and.
If it was delivered to
generally-
us, we would have sent it out to Lockport.
Yes,
I mean, there's a ton of aspects that can go into an ethics committee, right?
there sure is. There's actually some ethics, things that we're looking into now, Mr. Tyler.
I don't know what that tone was implying, but
Well,
I'm sure
I'm
I'll
just letting
find
you
out.
know that you're held accountable just like everybody else.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the whole thing. So
So I guess basically everyone's against it, with exception.
I'm not against
No,
it.
nobody's against it. We'd like to
Okay.
look into the Niagara County, one that's in existence and that is working as a viable option.
How do they determine, I guess, how does it work?
I would like
is
to
my
hear more of
question.
your comments and not the questions towards this. If you're bringing this up as part of,
No, it has nothing to do with
because
this.
you brought up two separate items and,
Well,
we can get you that information, but you're not gonna get it tonight. We can get back to you on it.
Okay, okay.
Well, Austin, you don't know either, so.
I don't, I care
So,
about North
you're-
Tonawanda in the sense of an ethics committee, because I think it needs to be
Me
localized.
too, and, well, I don't think it needs to be localized, I think it needs to be, solvent.
Well, one of the reasons it hasn't been localized is so that it would remain neutral, and we wouldn't have people from our own town and our own people
Exactly.
But,
judging each
but the
other.
county ethics committee is incorporated of legislators that I think a couple of them are from here
Well, then what do
and
you-
live in our
what-
neighborhoods and
all
are our
right,
neighbors.
Then what do we do, go to the state?
But all I'm saying is there should be a checks and balances on different levels, not just one ambiguous one in Lockport.
It's not ambiguous, other municipalities are using
No
it.
one seems to know where to go other than the county.
You go to Lockport and you go to the county building,
Well-
or you call them and ask them how to get in
I
touch
just
with
don't
the
think it
ethics
should be that
committee, and that's what they do.
I guess my question is there an ethical question that you would like our office to look into?
Yeah, we
Not at
don't,
this time.
That's just an overall question,
Well,
because
how
I hear a lot of.
approachable is that, right? It's like, tell us your ethical issues. It's not, it's just.
We, as I said at the last council meeting that I was at,
Question.
we are HR. I get a lot of ethical questions every single day. I don't think anybody in the city has ever had a question or a concern about bringing their questions to me. If I needed to deal with it in different ways, send it to Lockport, which I haven't had to deal with yet, I would deal with that. If you had a concern, I would take that concern, and I would deal with the way I best feel it. If you didn't think I could deal with it, then as I said, I would send it to Lockport.
And we haven't heard, you don't have a specific issue that you're referring to?
I was just wondering how you stood on an ethics committee. That's all. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Bernadette.
She asked each one of you where you stand. Barry said he had no comment. How about each of you, your response?
We were just advised by the attorney not to make a comment.
I was advising on Sweeney project, Mayor.
Ethics committee, you want an opinion on the ethics committee? I have nothing against an ethics committee. We have one, and it's through the county.
And that's what we
So I
said.
have no problem with the ethics committee as such.
The rest of you, no comment.
No, that's.
No,
We
I
have-
agree with the
we have a-
mayor.
We echo what we echo what
Ethics
he
committee.
said.
But we don't know who's on it, or who to call.
So Austin needs to approve who's on it, is what he's saying.
I'm not saying that, I think it should be among many individuals,
Well, I believe your
non-employees,
suggestion,
non-political.
I
you know.
believe your suggestion when you brought up the ethics committee, that each council member should pick somebody to be on that ethics
Exactly.
committee, and how biased would that be?
No, but if you pick
I
someone who's
think
not
that
a
it
city
should stay
employee,
at the county level.
and there's different ways to do it, right? Like Amherst, for example, they base theirs on party. So there's a Green Party, a Republican, Dem, but that I feel doesn't necessarily work because that's
Right.
just really a label then. And what does it mean? They could be a labeled Dem, but be a Republican and so on. But other municipalities will have their councilmen who, we were elected by the people, the majority, and they decided they wanted to trust our best interests, just like we could entrust someone in their best interest as well. And that person, and there's many other stipulations of it, I mean, this is part of the discussion. So,
Has anybody had a concern with the ethical board in Lockport?
I don't think anyone knows what it is.
I think
So-
people
so-
think it's dead.
Well, so there's been no ethical concerns brought up, is that correct?
Wow.
That-
To
Since I've
the-
been up
to
here
the
for
county?
5 years, I have none that I know of.
Okay.
Really?
Yes,
I know you can get a hold of it because it is listed and you can go through the county and find out all the members, like any committee in the county.
Yep.
Anybody that's elected or anybody that's on committees, you can get the names of them by simply contacting the county. And I just, at this point, fail to see where each of the council members chooses somebody that's a friend or relative or someone they know in town, or they think, I don't think that is neutral.
Yeah, doesn't sound like a
That's
fair
my
way to do it.
opinion. In terms of ethical committee, fine, we have one, it's through the county.
I'm sorry that doesn't answer your question, but if it's in existence, we should explore that option.
Hello, Dennis.
Go ahead.
Hello, are you ready for me?
The floor's yours, sir. Awkward pause.
Yeah, hi, I'm Dennis Garland, I'm at 238 Tremont Street. You know, I personally about the ethics committee thing, it's not on the agenda and this is the time for this. Every time I've had an issue, I brought it to the council or either individually or at council and it's been addressed or at least acknowledged. Frankly, I don't have an ethical problem, I haven't seen, and I respect the neighbor who is in litigation with the Sweeney thing. To have working groups or call for committees without precedent or without some kind of preceding action that requires it seems a little bit unnecessary, seems a lot unnecessary. And frankly, it's very discouraging for me as an audience member and a resident to sit here and listen to quibbling among our elected board members, our honorable elected board members, about this non-issue, in my opinion.
Thank you,
So I just got to say, well, I mean, it's across the panel, and it's discouraging, and it reeks of partisanship. I don't know if it's internal, I don't know if it's partisan, but it's unsettling, and that's all I have to say about it. Thank you.
So Dennis, one point that I would like to make of that, I think the stigma behind an ethics committee is really pointing fingers, but it's really like someone else had mentioned in HR. And however it's made up of, whether it's by party or it's by a council person who's elected, pointing, or you pick a name out of a hat, out of the 30-some thousand people in North Tonawanda, the idea of it. And they do more than, the stigma of point fingers. It could be, passing a drug policy among city employees. It could be a procedure in our code of ethics. I mean, it really could be a few different things.
But it's your job to, as a collective, to determine what the procedures are and to work together.
Right.
I mean, you're different party affiliations, I understand that, but your job for us is to work together
Yes.
and resolve that. In your chambers, in your committees, respective committees, you're to work together on all of our behalves, regardless of your party affiliation.
Absolutely.
So to sit up here and kind of clip each other with little snips and calling each other out like that, it's sophomoric,
Yeah.
and it's beneath you, frankly. I understand what an ethics committee is. I'm in higher education, we have procedures.
So you don't like the way in which we're talking
I don't
to
think
each
that
other?
it's mature the way you're engaging with each other.
I
in front of your
apologize.
residents.
Dennis, I think you're correct, and I apologize for the way that, it was grandstanded up here. It was unacceptable,
I
and
mean, I just,
and especially since there's not an issue on the
my 2
floor
cents.
to discuss it. So I agree with you.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Tim.
Anybody else wishing to speak? Oh, go ahead.
Good evening, my name is Paul Wolf, I live at 9 Guinevere Court in the town of Amherst. I am an attorney and the president of the Buffalo Niagara Coalition for Open Government. We're a nonprofit organization consisting of residents from Erie and Niagara County who support and advocate for open government. So I just want to compliment you on a couple things I've observed tonight anyways. I've been around all over Erie and Niagara County observing different meetings and speaking at different meetings. And I give you credit that you hear from residents early in your meeting. There are some municipalities that you only get to speak at the end of the meeting, even regarding agenda items. You only get to speak after the council has voted, which, I mean, what's the point? Actions have already been taken. So I give you credit for having early on your agenda, hearing from people. I also give you credit that you allow 5 minutes to speak, and you seem to be pretty liberal about that. In some places, it's 3 minutes, and they have a clock, and you are done. I also compliment you that in some places, people speak, and nobody says anything. There's no engaging, there's no asking questions, there's no answers to questions, and you seem to be willing, granted, a little bit of snipping going on tonight, but you at least seem to be willing to engage people and answer questions, and that's not true everywhere. So I applaud you for that. Our organization recently has released some reports. We did a report last year and this year where we rated local government websites. And the city of North Tonawanda was one of the websites we rated. Last year, your score wasn't so great by our criteria. We put together a list of 10 items worth 10 points each. Are you posting meeting agendas, minutes? Is there FOIL information in a visible spot? Is there contact information for department heads and elected officials? A list of 10 things, and the highest score you could get was 100. Last year, out of 16 municipalities we rated, pretty basic stuff, only 2 out of 16 passed. And North Tonawanda was not one of them. North Tonawanda got a score of 59 out of 100. But this year we did an update. We went back and we took a look at people's websites to see if some changes have been made. And to your credit, changes have been made. And North Tonawanda's score this year was a 72. So you're passing.
You're
72. A 72 puts you in 3rd place out of 16. Again, the highest score I think we had was an 82, which is Wheatfield. So you got some competition going here with Wheatfield.
How about that, Austin?
But some things that snippy comments. Some things that.
No, he brought it up, so it's good to hear this.
So some things that you have done, you are now videotaping your meetings and posting them online, I believe, right?
Yeah.
And that's good news. I wish more places did that. That's a great way for people who can't come to a meeting to see what's going on. But some ways where you can get some additional points to boost your score is one thing that we like to see people add to their website is what's called a notify me link. It's a simple link that can be put to your website that people can sign up, put their email in, and they get an email reminder about the city council meeting, about a public hearing. It's just a great way to, it's tough for people busy to keep track of meetings. It's a great way to generate an email reminder to folks. If you add that to your website, that boosts your score 10 points for next year perhaps, which ties you with Wheatfield. Another thing you could do is post financial disclosure forms on your website. Now here's the rub. The law in New York State, and we released a report today regarding financial disclosure forms, which I emailed to everyone. The law requires that if you're a municipality of 50,000 people or more, you must do a financial disclosure form. The city of North Tonawanda is under 50,000 people, so you don't have to do it, but we still think it's a good practice for people to do it. The town of Lancaster, the town of Clarence, even though they're under 50,000, they do financial disclosure forms. Quite honestly, the city of Niagara Falls is now under 50,000. They don't have to do it, but they are doing financial disclosure forms. So that would be one thing that we would encourage you to take a look at doing. I know the whole ethics board, that's a whole nother discussion, but we think it's important for elected officials to disclose what relationships they have, what relatives are on the payroll, what businesses they may have, which may or may not be doing businesses with the town. So our report, which hopefully can guide you, we took a look at 10 local government disclosure forms they're using. They're attached to our report so you can see what others are doing. There's a model form that we found that we really liked that we've attached to our report, which you can take a look at as well. State elected officials complete a pretty burdensome form, and those are online. If you can look up your state senator, your state assembly members, the governor's financial disclosure form, they're posted online. That's not true of local elected officials. And we've been encouraging people to not only do this process, but to post that information online. To his credit, Jim Shaw, the Hamburg town supervisor, just became the first elected official that I'm aware of in Erie, Niagara County to post his disclosure form online. Paul Deister, the mayor of Niagara Falls, has said he's going to post his online. Haven't seen it yet, but I hope he will follow through with that. We hope that you will take a look at our report, make some additional changes to your website. You're doing some good things here. We can boost your score even more. Consider doing financial disclosure forms, which I think is important regardless of the size of a municipality. I think it's important for everyone to do that. And I appreciate you taking the time and to hear what I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf,
Thank
and I appreciate your organization. We do believe in open government. The one question I would ask, though, is that these numbers that you give for the scores, is that arbitrary, or is that, who determines
The criteria.
the numbers for that?
Well-
Because I look at a number 79, 82, I guess the way I look at it is, are they green, yellow, or red? And something like that would be more helpful than you actually determining what a number is overall.
That's something we struggle with, fair question. The way we've done it is we put together amongst ourselves, and Sonia attends our meetings, one of our members, Austin attended our last meeting. We put together a criteria of items that we think make sense to rate on. And that's how there's some subjective to it. When you're looking at a website, we had 3 different people look at your website, and there's some variation in the scores. It's not an exact science. But just I think it's helpful to put some sort of number on it to just see how you stack up. But that's how we do it. We do establish some criteria. For this financial disclosure report, what we did is there were 16 items that we thought should be in a disclosure report. And if you had 12 out of 16, well, that was a 75%. If you had, 8 out of 16, that was a 50%. So that's how we did this most recent report.
It would be nice if the election laws would change where everyone running would have to have that disclosure up front and out there in the public.
I agree.
Let's do it.
So I appreciate your time.
Mr. Wolf, I have a comment on some of this, and I appreciate your thoughts and some of the ideas you've given us and your report that you sent out today. I do want to mention, though, that last year, North Tonawanda got a very low score. And the score was given before you got the information, some of the information. And one of the things you mentioned in your report last year was the number of mayors and supervisors that did not have a schedule or to present to the public or whatever. They didn't keep it. Some said they destroyed it after.
Well, that was a separate thing from the website report.
Yeah. However, we had a very detailed schedule for the mayor's office. And we put a lot of time and effort into preparing this for you, and no one from your office came to get it, to view it, see it, after several reminders.
Well, the problem was, I think the charge was like an outrageous charge that people wanted.
I can speak on that, Mayor, because Adam and I spoke with your office on this, or yourself on this a lot of times. There was a charge which we're allowed to do per page. We gave that charge to you, and I specifically told you this is a large amount.
Yeah.
So you asked for it in PDF. I by no means are a computer whiz, and I had tried sending it to you several times. So you asked to come in and see it. So we set up a spot in City of North Tonawanda, and we waited and waited for you, and then you released the information without actually coming and seeing it.
Right.
So I believe the mayor's office, who the mayor can show you his calendar that he uses, it's not necessarily always electronic, but he keeps detailed notes. So him and his secretary took ample time to put that in PDF format for yourself in your office, and then set you up a place. So I can tell you that I was a little disappointed when I read the article that we didn't provide it for you, when it was definitely tried to provide for you.
My recollection of the article was, again, we're going back to last year, was I was just simply trying to find out if I could get the information. I didn't necessarily need to view it, and I was curious what the cost was. Some places gave it to me for free. Some places charged minimal. The charge here was the highest of any in Erie and Niagara County.
Do you recall what New York State allows for the charge?
The charge is 25 cents a page.
What do we charge per page?
I can't recall.
It's 25 cents per page. Okay. So we follow New York State law.
I understand.
So it must have been a lot of information.
Well, we keep things pretty detailed, and then when there was no response from your office, and this was after 2 or 3 calls, then we took a little.
Understood.
But other than that, thank you for
Sure.
everything that we did.
Yep.
Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to speak on any city business for the good of the city, please step forward, state your name and address.
Amanda Reimer, City Accountant. I just wanted to comment on the proposal we did last week with recreation. Every once in a while in the county department, we get to do something fun, like hire an engineer to look at our pool. I want to thank Bob for being on so many of our committees, and it really helps us tie. I know everybody has full-time jobs. This is kind of Bob's full-time job. I always say he should have a room upstairs here, but he's always here, always a part of everything, and it's really good for us as department heads to have that tie. So when it comes to the table, everyone's informed. So he's always been a really good liaison between us all. But the firm that we did pick, I think, is amazing, and what they really brought to the table was bringing a concept where you brought it up about how Memorial Pool it used to be like the place to be, and it was a hub for the city. So that was really what got us in their design, is they said, let's bring back this social aspect. You have this park here, it's central to the city, so something I'm really excited about, really excited to see how it unfolds. But the firm, Brandsetter Carroll, they're gonna be at a lot of our events over the summertime, and they're gonna be doing questionnaires and everything. So I really encourage you, if you're, name a couple events for me you're gonna have at the city. Yep, so they're gonna coordinate with Patty, anything she's saying, the concerts, the summer blast off. If you're there, look for them. They're gonna be out amongst the community, not just for a public hearing, but this is exciting for us. It's a big move. We're gonna, it's gonna be there. It's gonna be there for the next 30, 40 years. So, 70 years, yeah. So if you're out there and you're attending these events, look for them. They're gonna be questions, getting input on designs, what attracts you to the pool, what's gonna bring you there. So even if you don't use the memorial pool, which I don't think a lot of people do right now, but they're gonna be out there in the community and they're gonna be looking for public input on designs before we get to the public hearing phase of it. So just wanted to comment on that real
Thank you,
quick.
Amanda.
Thank you, Amanda. And I agree with you that I think it's great that Bob is
Yeah.
like in a liaison for us as a council because he can be up here during the day.
I'd hate
For
to see
those
if
of those.
Mr. Wolf foiled his schedule.
I only put in 46 hours
You
last
might,
week.
you might have to have your own financial disclosure, I know what you paid for.
Thanks.
Anybody else wishing, there was a gentleman in the back?
I won't take much of your time. Hi, my name is Lou Samansky. I live at 695 East Boundary. And I'm part of this 1100 Sweeney Project lawsuit procedure against, I guess, the city or Mike Walkowitz. And I was just wondering if anybody in the council could give me an update as to what the actual status is of this lawsuit.
Well, as we were saying, and Nick can tell you, we're not allowed to speak about current litigation. But go ahead, Nick.
I'll just simply say it's currently in litigation.
Okay,
It's
well,
ongoing.
my understanding, and forgive me if it's wrong, is there's an injunction that Mr. Walkowitz cannot do anything on that property. And from what I understand, I heard today that he just got a permit to develop an 800-foot driveway from Sweeney Street into that property. And if he's got an injunction, how can you get a permit to do that? That's not right. And again, I'm not saying somebody's doing something wrong, but there we go again with the ethics committee.
I will simply state that that's not as simple as you're making it sound up to be.
Well, it should be, it's right or wrong.
It's definitely not that simple, sir.
I mean, I don't understand, if the judge says you can't do anything, Mr. Walkowitz,
There's conditions on that.
well, such as?
I am not at liberty to say that. It's ongoing litigation as we speak.
Now, what about the border fence that he put up all along Brentwood, was that illegal?
He got a permit for that fence, and he put it up, and it's his property.
Okay. Other than that, you can't give me any information?
No, sir.
My concern is I live at the other end of this proposed project where the street would come through on the Boundary Street. And we've gone through it with the fire department, they can't get a hook and ladder through there. I mean, there's all things going on. This project, whoever approved this project should be fired, in my opinion.
I can tell you that if he is doing something illegally, not only would my office recommend for him to stop, I believe he has his own attorney, and then the judge also would ask him to stop as well.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak on any city business for the good of the city? Go ahead, John. You can stay there.
Yeah.
John Lucasek, 454 Shank Street. The gentleman that spoke about sewage and the first gentleman that spoke, I want to congratulate the council because we came in under the proposed bids. So again, my congratulations to you. Secondly, there's a house on 20 Fountain Street that I don't know if it's a zombie house or not, but it's a disgrace when people come River Road into North Tonawanda and they see that house. And it's not a selling point for North Tonawanda to have property like that. I don't know if you're familiar with that or not. I don't know whose ward it belongs to, but it's 20 Fountain Street.
I believe that's Mark's ward.
And that's mine.
Yeah.
I'll take a look at it tomorrow.
It's boarded up, I understand.
Is that the second house coming off the river?
Roughly. Rob, do you know anything about it?
Yeah, 20 Fountain Street was never a zombie home. It had a fire a couple of years ago, and after the fire, the tenants were booted. The owner sold it to a flipper, a contractor who buys and sells homes in North Carolina. They put a new roof on it during the winter, and they're getting to it.
Okay.
You know, their permits out for the job, everything's legit, they're just not going.
So it's in
It's
remediation.
not going as fast as we would like to see it.
But this contractor does an excellent job, it'll be nice when it's.
Okay,
Good.
well, that's good.
So they're
There
moving
you
forward
go.
on it, John.
Thank you, Ralph.
Thank you, John. Anybody else wishing to speak on any other city business before we move on?
I was looking for the item, several things, very quickly. On the audit report, I believe it said 12/31/2017 is when you were presented with it, correct?
No.
That financial statement?
Sonia, that's the year end. That's when the audit ended. It's year end. For the year
Okay,
ending.
so it wasn't that, okay, you didn't receive it, okay. Regarding the disclosure, the ethics, I believe it was in mid-eighties, maybe late eighties, I had read our code of ethics. It's like from prehistoric time, there's no teeth to it. We need to go back, read it, we need to update it, and it's not enough to have an ethics code, then we need to have material that we can fall back on when we follow the ethics code. For example, I would love, I recommend, I respectfully request that we would adopt having disclosure forms. I know we're under 50,000, but to me, it's a no-brainer. Hey, folks, maybe you don't want to say it, but we've had scandals in North Tonawanda, Niagara County, not once, but several times. Local people have been found guilty by the federal government. Duh, we need it. I want to really emphasize to you, this is such a no-brainer, and you're talking like, hey, it's okay here. We can't have a local person talking bad about another person. Just like when you go to a jury, you have your peers deciding, making judgment on the facts that they hear.
Yeah, but those peers that don't know the people they're not allowed to know or be related to.
You're not looking at labels, you're looking at the facts. And if there's a complaint,
Well, you
the
don't want
committee,
bias.
I think
You don't
would
want
be
it to
the
be
ones.
biased. The bottom line is it can't be biased. It can be local, but it can't be biased. A lot of NT, you call it a bedroom community?
Yeah.
Isn't that what you refer to it?
right, absolutely.
There's 5 degrees of separation between a lot of people in NT, Sonia. So therefore, if people know people, it's gonna be very hard to get an unbiased
Maybe I should
ethical
add,
decision.
from what you're saying, I guess I have to add, we need to find people who are respected, have credentials that are golden, prime, creme de la creme. I think we have people here like that. We don't see them too often, or never, but they're out there, believe me. Here's the point. This is 2018. This is not anymore the 30s, 40s, 50s. Given the history of this municipality and this county, this is an imperative, especially in North Tonawanda. I want to see it, and I hope each one of you, Mr. Ruby, Mrs. Braun, Mayor Pappas, Mr. Zadzilka,
Robinson.
the Assistant Attorney, Mr. Tylek, Mr. Pecoraro, you will look inward and say, I am a representative of this community. Do I care about what happens, that ethics are being followed? Please consider what I said. There was another speaker speaking about, brought it up, the ethics. I was glad to hear that. I want to tell you, another very good example, how can you hold anyone accountable who makes decisions on the zoning and planning board that might be not following and maybe they're receiving something? How do you know? When you have a code of ethics elements that are addressing things to discourage corruption, pay to play, I think that would be helping.
Thank you, Sonia. Thank you.
Thank you.
One last thing, Mr. Quinn. For years, and I was glad a couple of years ago, another speaker other than myself had said, you know, when you do your minutes, they're not accurate. I've said this once before, I'm saying it again. When I read, I don't read the minutes all the time, I forget about them, but then I'll look at them and, my God, I never said that. You would think an idiot was making these comments.
I disagree.
When you look at them, I know what I said. And another thing is, not only are they distorted, they're silly. So I would respectfully ask that you have a taping, really take the time to do it accurately.
Sonia, I listen to yours over and over again when I write it. I mean, I listen to yours the most of anyone.
Yeah.
So-
You know, another thing, the zoning board.
Listen, your
last
time is
month-
up.
So
We pay
Last
respect-
month, there was.
No. There was just one more thing. We respected that, and now, please,
Thank you.
you're taking your
Thank you,
time.
Sonia.
Anybody else wishing to speak on any city business, please step forward and state your name and address. Seeing that there's none, we'll move into closing comments, starting with Alderman Austin Tyler.
1 second. Okay, so, hello everyone. This is more intense of a meeting than I thought it would be, so let me just. So, the point on the ethics committee, I think we know where at least I stand on it. I'm fully open to something, or accepting the idea of a disclosure form early. I mean, what do you have to hide then, right? That's the question. But, you know, I think, again, like I said, there's a lot of stigmas with the ethics committee, and it's not something that, you know, it should be politicians are scolded, or city employees are it's really just sort of a body you can go to and have a conversation with them, and then have them vet it out, and then they have the resources, we allow them potentially to have the resources to look into stuff. You know, there's a lot of rumors that go around in North Tonawanda, I'm sure everyone knows, and some of them are true, some of them are not so true. So it would be nice to have a body of nonpartisan people, however they form, and they can vet it out, you know, because Bob, 50 hours a week, you know, full-time job here. He doesn't always have time to dig into these rumors and really, you know, it's to save people time, headaches, and really it's supposed to have a positive outcome. You know, stuff that could be potentially addressed in them, you know, like where does a 5-minute rule come from? It doesn't actually exist. It's something we made up. That is something that could be in an ethics committee, and they say maybe 7 minutes is okay, maybe 6 minutes. You know, questionable things about Robert's Rules of Order. We don't actually, we follow a variation of them, and it would be pretty strict if we followed them completely, but we never made it a law to follow Robert's Rules of Order. We just sort of go about that way. I know there's a code in there, in our code, that says something about receiving a code of ethics, our code of ethics, when you become elected. I never received that when I was elected. It's just it's someone's address. I don't think legally we actually need to get someone's address. I think that's just something we do, and do we still want to do that? Maybe people have privacy issues, and it catches them off guard when they got 8 people staring at them, and they're like, you know, so maybe they regret giving the address. It's just stuff to think about that we need to look back and reflect on, you know, the previous year and what did we do. And Paul, it was nice to meet you a few weeks ago. You know, I got these random emails from this Paul Wolf. I'm like, what is he? Why is NT rated? And what is this? And so it was nice to put a face, and it seems like your organization is getting recognition. And I don't agree with everything that you guys recommend, but at least it's something to think about, right? So it's just something that we should discuss, and it shouldn't be, you know, crucifying people among the city officials, residents, employees, anything. It's just something we should talk about in the future. Sorry, I have a cold. So, with that also, let's see. We have to make a list. There's a huge list. The one thing I do want to say, and Bernadette, Bernie, a few residents in the past year and a half, even I started attending planning board meetings, we don't post our planning, like our site plans or our building plans or things like that. I mean, Dan was nice enough to give me some the other day that I asked for, but why isn't something posted online that, could be in your backyard? Like I always say, if someone was building a skyscraper in my backyard, which doesn't fit the zoning code, right, Rob? Right? I'd wanna know about it, and I keep hearing this from residents is, they turn the pictures, I see this clock here, and I'm like, how do we want a giant clock timing down 5 minutes? We have this projector, put it off to the side so people can look at it while we're discussing our audit report, how our city's doing, our comprehensive plan, or, zoning board plans. Yeah, it's these small things that just make us so much more approachable, and people want to come to council meetings. I mean, I remember when I started coming to these council meetings, there was 2 people here 2 years ago. So it's fantastic to see people. I know I'm going on a rant, but it's just, we always need to be looking back and how we can modify it. And I know, I'm not saying we don't do that, and council members haven't, they've been here a much longer time than I, but just something to think about. So, leave it at that. Thank you for coming, reflect on it, and have a good night.
Alderman Bob Pecoraro.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sonia, I'm not offended that you don't think I'm quality people, because you basically said none of us up here meet your high standards. So I just want to say that I take that to heart.
What did I say?
That we didn't meet your quality standards.
You got the wrong message.
I guess I did. It's important to have open government and transparency. And that's exactly why we brought the Niagara River cruises back. They've done a great job with the docks. We know that. They came up and gave us a great presentation. They were a chamber member of the month last month, but still we have an open, transparent process for the request for proposals. And we brought them back through that process and gave them nothing additional and competed that contract out like we normally should do, because that's the right thing to do. We don't have a friends and family plan in North Tonawanda. So we like them. They did a great job in the past, and we know they're gonna move forward in the future, and we're excited about that. One piece where I'll need everyone's help is that if you haven't been living under a rock, we have a drug epidemic problem, and we have a youth problem with substance abuse. To help counter that, we have a Community Health Alliance of North Tonawanda. And next week, on June 11th, we have an all-star panel coming in to talk about what their solutions are to keeping youth off of substance abuse products. And in the past, we've gotten very little participation from the community, from families, and maybe it was just the board makeup of who we had coming. So this year, I asked Lisa Pietrangelo, our coordinator, that we had to get some people on that panel with a wow factor, so that it would draw people in to realize what that problem is. And one of the people that's gonna be that wow factor is Joe Messi. As you know, Joe Messi is a former heavyweight champ and a boxer, and has suffered through some of those issues. Also, Gail Bernstein, who's the Erie County Commissioner of Health, will be there at this town hall meeting on the 11th of June at 6 o'clock at Spruce School. Also, Greg Waitilla, who is our superintendent of schools, is taking it very close and personal to heart, this problem. And then finally, Becky Whittish, who is a Niagara County legislator and has done a lot of great things in Niagara County. And they are going to be on the board for a panel discussion for what we can do to move forward to prevent youth from ever getting on substance abuse products. So I need you all to get the word out, that there's a alliance that exists to help get solutions, and we'd like you to be at this town hall meeting so that you can be part of the solution as we move forward, because we know what the challenges are out there for youth today. And then on the other note, We have, a community resource hub, and this gets into Patty's realm, with the summertime. We brought services to North Tonawanda to help our residents to improve their quality of life. It's a quarterly makeup, and we've been advertising those. Our next community hub is on Friday, June 22nd. Thanks to Patty Brocious and the Parks Department. We're doing it in association with their summer kickoff. So from 4 to 7 p.m. at Payne Park. And this is more oriented towards family and family services and what families need to improve their quality of life overall. So on those events there, please help me get the word out, because I think it's important for our community, important for our residents, and important for the quality of life. And then lastly, I just want to say thanks, Patty, for letting me be on that Memorial Pool Selection Committee, because it was a real hot day, and when you talk about pools and fun, it's a great day. So with that, I appreciate everybody being here this evening. Yes, ma'am.
I just have a question. You mentioned.
Yep.
Abuse stuff. Do you have any of that you just talked about listed on your website?
We do. We have our results posted from our, what we call a youth risk behavioral assessment survey. That should be on the website.
But with regards to your meeting that you want.
It's on Facebook, and is it on the city website?
What's the date?
11.
If it's not, I'll put it up.
Okay.
I see it on the calendar. I just didn't know if there's information. that
Yeah.
you just spoke
Yeah.
about.
Yeah. It's on Facebook, but we have to do a better job getting that out to the public. Thank you for that.
So, you know, if you get the word out, you go to the website, there's information that
Yeah.
might be valuable for families or parents.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
No, I see
Thank you.
Okay.
It is.
Alderman Mark Berube, any closing comments?
Yes, I just want to point out one thing. After months, not years, negotiation, and we'll have to thank Luke Brown and Nick in the city attorney's office. They came up with a contract for the Ridge Road repaving. The school board signed it, and last Wednesday, we got Sportsplex and TCCO to sign the contract. And I have to thank Mark Zellner and the DPW department, because they immediately started milling and repaving that area. And if you drive by there today, they finished repaving that so that people can go through there without having to swerve left and right and worry about losing a tire and everything else on there. I drove by this afternoon. The side lots for Sportsplex and TCCO, still are unpaved. That's their responsibility. But DPW was able to get that all milled and repaved.
Thank you,
And
Mark.
that's it.
Thank you, Mark. Alderwoman Donna Braun.
Hello. I would just like to end my speech with thank yous to Project Pride for this past weekend for sponsoring the planting of Webster Street and Oliver Street. I think that group has come together so well, and I want to commend them for bringing the suggestion of hiring a groundskeeper for Webster Street, Oliver Street, and the Manhattan Street parking lot. I think it was well thought out by Robert Hughes, who came to us, and I hope that we can find that right person to help out in that venture down there. I also like to congratulate Niagara River Cruises. We finally got this through. We got you for 3 more years, and I think it's wonderful. And I'm seeing all the events that you're running this whole summer. It's going to be fabulous. So we do have a lot of positive, exciting things going on in our city. I know there was a lot of negativity here tonight, but we're getting through that. Also, I'd like to commend Lumber City Development on the Ralph Wilson grant that we're going after. They reached out to the high school and architect and engineering department and brought those students in and helped them paved the way to apply for this grant. So we have a lot of good things happening in the city. As far as the other conversation that we had going on this evening, I apologize if I said anything wrong, but I do feel, I've sat up here for, this is my 5th year, and I don't think I've ever had, anything ethical that has come to me. Like Mr. Garland said, he comes to each council member, and that's what I do. If somebody from the community comes to me and asks me about something, or they're concerned about something, I try and find those answers for them or direct them in the right way. If it's an employee of the city, they go to their department heads, or they go to the legal department. So I have never seen anything unethical happen up here as a council member, and if we do, I think that we have it at the county level. And that's my opinion. I think the couple just left that asked us her opinion. Other than that, community gardens this Saturday at 10 o'clock, they're having a planting for children to come out at 228 Summer Street. If you haven't gone by the community gardens, you should. It's a wonderful project that we as council work together to get that off the ground and running. So we do have a lot of positives going on in the city. And I thank you, and I hope everyone has a great evening.
Thank you, Donna. Mayor Arthur Pappas.
Well, that has already been said, and I would echo what the other people have stated. I do want to add a couple things. This past weekend, we had the prom breakfast that took place after the senior prom this year. The venue was over at the new youth center, and it turned out to be a tremendous success. We had nothing but positive comments given back to us, and I'd like to congratulate Patty Brocious and her department and all those concerned with making that such a success. The students stayed quite late, and it's a safe, supervised atmosphere, and it sounds and looks, I know from what I saw over there, it was they had a great time. And the few students I talked to thought it was great, so thank you, Patty, and your staff and everybody concerned with that. The also great success this weekend was a taste of the Tonawandas over at Gateway Park. It was the place was mobbed, and the weather turned out just right because it wasn't too hot, wasn't too cold. It was great. Food was great, music was great, and those that attended again seemed very pleased. Ridge Road's already been mentioned. I and my assistant were over there today. We're going to go over tomorrow. And I would like to give a lot of credit to our Department of Public Works with Mark Zellner and Joe Allo, who have been guiding this thing with Ridge Road and the other streets in the city. If you've noticed, a lot of streets have been milled down now, and they're getting ready for the paving. And to all our departments, it's just been an overwhelming season because the weather has been up and down, as you know, back and forth with the rain and hot to cold and so on. And then all these activities in town and what we're trying to accomplish, a lot of it, most of it is weather related. So I thank all the residents for their patience. The jobs are getting done, and if the weather holds out and they're not working between raindrops all the time, a lot's going to get done in a fairly short time. The city in general, when it comes to this talk of ethics or whatever, I know the aldermen, they give out their numbers freely. They're very conscientious about talking to their constituents. My office is open daily. I have an open door policy, which many of you know. If I'm in there and I'm not at a meeting or someone else is in there with me, people are free to walk in with their concerns at any time, and we always make time and we contact the aldermen. We stay in touch with each other. We try to communicate as best we can. In terms of some of our codes, and I've mentioned this before, some of our codes and ordinances and whatever, they are under review the legal department is looking at codes daily. The code officers are doing this. They're bringing to our attention things that should be updated and whatever. But in terms of doing all this, it takes a lot of time. And they also have their regular jobs. They're out in the field every day and with other situations, not just codes. But they are looking at it. We are trying to update, and they're making progress. But for every update, there's always discussion and there's always debate, because there's some agree and there are some that don't agree. So it's not a fast process, nor should it be and can it be, because of the nature of it. And so I just want people to know that these things are being worked on as best they can. Every department this year, I think, has been kind of overwhelmed. It's been a very, very busy year, and I don't care what the department is, every one of them have been doing a super job for this community. It doesn't matter if it's an office, it doesn't matter what department, the Public Works, Parks and Recreation, the police, the fire, the accounting office, city clerk's office, the code officers, they are all very, very busy. And I just want them to know their efforts are appreciated, and I want the public to know that they are working on their behalf very hard daily. So with that, I'll end. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Assistant City Attorney Nick Robinson, any closing comments?
Just briefly, dealing with the ethics board, I know every person up here has touched on it. If there is a concern out there, I know the mayor said his door is always open. I can tell you I leave City Hall probably 3 days a week wondering if I did anything legal, because I'm dealing with citizens on a regular basis. I'm dealing with department heads on a daily basis and employees throughout the city. If you have an ethical concern, bring it to my attention. I can tell you that we will act on it, and we will do what's needed to solve the problem. If you don't trust myself or the head city attorney, Luke Brown, there is an ethical board in Lockport. I know some of you asked if it's out there. I promise you it's out there. Reach out to them. The second thing I want to touch base on is something that the police department has been doing lately. I don't know if it's a new initiative or not, but I've seen it in different papers and reporting. Lock your doors at night, 9 o'clock. They've been constantly sending messages out telling you to do this. They see this on a regular basis. I can tell you.
Lock your cars.
That's what I meant. I am one in the summer that leaves my car out in the driveway and don't think anything about it. After seeing the police, and I said, I don't know if it's a new initiative, but after seeing some of the police publications out there, I have started to do that myself. So protect yourselves. That's it.
Thank you. City Clerk Treasurer Dan Quinn.
The only thing I have to say is, I had mentioned earlier that you can't have this. The only reason I said it is it's my copy. You're more than welcome to foil it, and we can make you a copy if you want to take it and with you. But you have to just fill out a FOIA request, and you can get a copy of our, I need my glasses, our basic financial statement and single audit for the year ending December 31st, 2017.
And lastly, just in closing, I've been on this council for 8.5 years. And I can say that if anybody has any ethical concerns, they can bring it to my attention. And you've heard one opinion, and then you've heard 5 or 6 others. And everyone's entitled to their opinion on what should be done with ethics. My opinion is what I stated earlier. We have an ethics commission that's in the county. Why don't we use them if that's the case? However, as you can see in the many things that we've talked about tonight, there are people that focus on the positive and the things that are going well in the city. And then there are things that are people try to cast aspersions on, or they try to look for problems. And honestly, I find that counterproductive in a city day-to-day business, where we are all trying to work with department heads, as you heard, work with the DPW, try to get things done for you, the taxpayers. And if we're going to try to turn over every rock for every rumor, I'm not going to be able to balance your budget and do you the good service in this community, my due diligence, if I'm going to worry about what he said, she said, and they said on Facebook. If somebody wants to know how I stand on something, don't read somebody's page. Ask me. Or look at the facts, find out the facts, read the paper, do some research, because I'm here to tell you that the greater good of the city is what this body has in our best interest right now. And some of you have been coming to the meetings, and some of you have been coming to these meetings for decades, and maybe you haven't seen it. But maybe you should look a little harder, because I'm here to tell you the good things that you're hearing and you're seeing around the city are not a result of searching for an ethics committee. They're the result of hard work by your current and past and previous people you voted in office to represent you, to do what's best for you. And we are approachable, and we've always prided ourselves on that. And I wanted to make it a point to let you know that. And, briefly, when we talk about ethics, let's consider one statement. And that's, I wrote down to what is right and what is wrong, okay? What is ethical and what are the standards, okay? So that I'm, as a council president, I'm gonna hold everyone up here to those standards and to those high levels, and including working with the city attorney and the assistant city attorney to follow up on any concerns. We've yet to have any of those concerns that may come up. And we will deal with them, just as Attorney Nick Robinson said. But I just wanted to leave you with that, because I'm here to tell you that I'd rather focus on what's the greatest good for the city and not what would happen, could happen, or might happen. And I will not be painted with the same brush as other people who may have had a checkered past or have some questions on their situation. And that's what's people would like to focus on, and I'd like to not focus on that. I like to focus on what we can do as a body. And in this body today, you saw some people that are working together. And I think we need to get everybody on this panel working together. And I apologize for the comments that were made that seemed to me to not be in the efforts of the common or the greater good, but to throw or cast some dispersions on some of the actions that may or may not be going on. So I leave you with that. I want to thank each and every one of you for your comments. I want to thank each and every one of you for your questions. And I want to thank you for coming tonight. With that, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.
I did, thank you.
Make them the official paper of Jane's signature. How are you? What's your name?
I have a
cold today.
You specifically
Alright, Alexis, what's my title?
would like some information.
It's alright. As alternate at large, I make every student write it down so every vote. Don't worry, bud. You're back. You just coming back from budget? You're about 10? Did someone else just like know you?
Just like the animal. Nice to meet you.
So it's
And
not.
give me a call.
Likewise.
You gotta get your foot back there.
He has everything.
And so I did talk to no, for instance,
bad guys, so that we still like to get so I can get you an actual direct line. I think we want to do legally is the best thing we could to ensure that someone is put in charge of that.
Does he have that yet?
Is that part of the reason why you guys put that up?
Well, it's part of the, I would like to see that. I would reach out and forward, but I can also, I just feel that when you're talking about what's the best way to get it.
Well, my number is 909. I never agreed. What do they do in the water department?
They are the ones that go out on the intake breaks. They're the ones that have to, how much
Paul, how are you?
It's a little different than the water.
Brad,
He was available. Yes, he had those duties.
Was the $10,000 not just a new fence from DPW over to?
Yeah, we'd like to see, you know, we want to our abilities, you know, actual, I think, you know, we need to.